Good morning and welcome to day 14 of Marjorie's table in April. We'll do what we always do in these sessions this morning. We'll do a quick warm-up exercise and then we'll look at a poem from a poet. Always a poet, although I should throw in some prose some morning to give us a shake-up. I might do that before the end of the month. And then I'll give you some craft notes, but I would love to hear what you think about the poem in the chat box because that's the best way to do a bit of a dialogue in these sessions because they're so quick. It's hard to have a real conversation with all of our mics on. And then in the time remaining, I'll give you two separate prompts responding to that first poem. And then we'll look on our way out, we'll look at a second poem by the same poet, and I'll give you a takeaway prompt. So without further ado, I want you to make a list of words that come to mind this morning for the word mother. I'll pop that in the chat bar. And now swap and make a list of words responding to the idea of tongue. Okay, and now try mother tongue. See what comes from mother tongue. Either try and describe your mother tongue or make a list of words that comes to mother tongue or define mother tongue. And when you're ready, if you're willing to share some of those words, just specific words or a phrase, it doesn't matter, in the chat box for others to use, please do, but no pressure. Tooth, detail, promontory, disillusioned. Um, let's find some more. The music of place, beautiful, detail, edible, beautiful, mounted on a wall, an empty space, Ulster Scots, flat, harsh, wagging, knows best, beautiful, Feed, swish, inherent, tangle, loose change. That's beautiful. Peat infused, forbidden, fixed to nurture. Stunning, stunning set of words this morning. If you Amnian, milk, ismith, I'm hoping you can hear me now, quiet, unheard, kissed morning, beautiful. If you like the sound of any of those that are in the chat box, steal some and try and get them in your own writing. This morning, it's always interesting to try and use someone else's words in writing. Particularly, I'm just looking at Esther's just put up exhaustion and tenderness. If we were trying to write a poem about a field, for example, it would be really interesting to try and get exhaustion in there or tenderness. It might, from already my brain is thinking, are the flowers exhausted? Is it autumn? You know, it's a really interesting thing to try and use words that don't necessarily correlate with the theme or the idea that we're trying to write about. So, but this morning I've done the thing that I don't normally do, which is to give you a poem call about a mother tongue. But I thought it might be interesting to use mother and tongue because those aren't necessarily what you get when you put the two together. So let me share my screen so you can see this poem by Tim Tim Cheng. They have a beautiful collection out that was a Poetry Book Society recommendation this year called The Tattoo Collector. And this is the second poem on that link. So if you're following along on your own computer, keep scrolling because this is the second one. And the poem is called Do You Feel Guilty for Not Writing in Your Mother Tongue? I should say Tim Tim Cheng splits time between, I think, Hong Kong, London, and Edinburgh or Scotland. And so has a kind of several languages that they use. Do you feel guilty for not writing in your mother tongue? We are in a field. The grass is unruly. I stand holding a mirror. My torso is out of view. The field is tunneling through me. The field is tunneling through me. The views behind and before me merge. I serve the mirror that frames the field that frames the mirror. Between the field and the mirror, the grass is already something else. All that grammar and glimmer. For the grass to reach the mirror, you cannot be proximate. It is generous. Both of us almost missing. We seem not to go or stay. Let me read it again before we have comments because it's quite a big one, I think. The only craft point I really wanted to point out is look at how much work that title is doing. The poem would be a completely different poem with a different title. And so already we're in the mindset of a mother tongue and someone who maybe has two different tongues. And I think that completely informs the poem. Otherwise, it might be just about someone standing in a field with a mirror. But now we know it's about language. Do you feel guilty for not writing in your mother tongue? We are in a field. The grass is unruly. I stand holding a mirror. My torso is out of view. To you, the field is tunneling through me. The views behind and before me merge. I serve the mirror that frames the field that frames the mirror. Between the field and the mirror, the grass is already something else. All that grammar and glimmer. For the grass to reach the mirror, you cannot be proximate. It is generous, both of us almost missing. We seem not to go or stay. I'd love to see what you think about this poem. I think the white space does a lot of work here in terms of giving us the space to figure out, what's happening in the poem. But that physical image, again, I'm always banging on about the physical, but that physical image of holding a mirror in a field is so we can picture it. I mean, we all have a different picture of it, but we can picture it, and somehow that physicality helps us ground this very difficult idea about not using our mother tongue in some way. Whereas I think if it had been an esoteric poem about feeling guilty or feeling confused or feeling that there was distance, even the word distance isn't specific enough, I think. Whereas this line, for the grass to reach the mirror, you cannot be proximate, is very specific. It has grass. She's already set us up with a mirror, gives us something much more physical that we can imagine, which somehow correlates to not using a mother tongue in a way. Yes, Rosie, I agree that the white space is holding so much more than language. And of course, it's silence. For me, it's silence or those gaps if you have two languages, or the timing or something about how having two languages or not speaking or translating into your mother tongue internally creates a kind of stutter or and not obviously not a physical stutter, but a gap or a lag. And there's something about this poem that replicates that for me too. So the form, I think, is doing something that the theme or the idea is also trying to generate. So if you have comments about them or confusion about the poem, shout and pop it into the chat box. Yeah, Shaza, I agree that each line reverse. I was thinking this morning as I reread it, felt like a poem in itself. You're right that it's sufficient for the theme. I think each one could just be a response to that title. I think all that grammar and glitter is beautiful, I think. Yeah, Linda, you're with me. Okay, it's 43 minutes past. Any other comments that you have, I will read out when we're done responding to this um, poem. But what I want you to do is just write a poem about your own mother tongue, whether that's language or whether that's an affinity for sewing or the outdoors or whatever, but whatever you might transcribe into your mother tongue. It could also just be the way your family or someone in your family spoke when you were younger, something that you've lost, something that you still have, but however that comes, what what feels like the mother tongue for you? And then I'll bring us back together in 7 minutes and give us a second prompt to write in response to this. Just another minute or so if you're still working on that one. Okay, if you want to swap prompts, and there's no need to if you don't want to, try writing about a time when you felt that a part of you was missing, whatever that comes. A part of you was missing. That could be language, it could be something else. Just another 30 seconds or so on that one. Okay, I just want to read out this lovely comment from Anne that changes are made with the influence of people and places modified like a symphony in composition. It's beautiful. I think even that's such a lovely description of how your mother tongue can shift, or your tongue can shift anyway, over a period of time. So stunning. Thank you. I'm just going to read us out of the room with the other poem that's up on the London magazine called The Tattoo Collector. It's a little bit shorter. The Tattoo Collector. He wasn't the first to say, I really like your jellyfish. I didn't know it reached from your spine all the way down your thighs. Thanks, I said. It's not the most obvious thing when you meet a person, when you first meet a person. From bed to cafe, our faces look different. I thought of facing a fallen tree, its robust aerial roots, my hair loosening from a bun, the jellyfish on my back formed an orgy of symmetries. He liked it when I told him I was grading papers with a red pen as my blood seeped through tattoo needles. A marble marriage with swirling tentacles. The last poem is just to write about a tattoo of sorts, one on someone else or one on yourself, but it doesn't have to be a real tattoo. It could be a mark. I'm forever, for example, writing things on my hands as the kind of teenage way of making sure I remember something that's hugely important. But a tattoo of sorts, or it could be a mark made by a burn or something else, like as you're cooking or some other way. But a tattoo of sorts that stayed long after you expected. You could have someone else noticing it, as in this poem. Um, oh, lovely. I'm going to read this out, but someone has shared that the Icelandic word for language is tungamai, which means tongue business or the affairs of the tongue, which is wonderful. Okay, everyone, it's been really lovely to have you with us this morning. We'll look at a completely different poet tomorrow. No idea who. I prepped all of these long ago, so they feel like a surprise to me too. But thanks for being with me this morning. I will see you all tomorrow.